Members, it's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Item 1. Information paper issued since the last meeting. The Secretariat has issued one information paper since the last meeting, and that's set out on the agenda. I believe members have the paper. Item 2. Items for discussion at the next meeting. Members can refer to the list of outstanding items for discussion. Our next regular meeting will be held on Monday, the 14th of July at 4:30 p.m. The administration proposes 2 items for discussion at the next meeting. First, the government's efforts on facilitating building management and property management. And second, Hong Kong Week 2025 at Seoul. If we're all good, then we will discuss those 2 items at the next meeting. No other items in mind? All good? So that's settled. Item 3. Proposed regulatory regime on basketball betting. Members may refer to LC paper number CP bracket 3883/2025 bracket 01. We now invite the government officials to join us. I believe they are here. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button now. Why don't I first invite the Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs to walk us through the paper? I'm sorry, Ms. Maggie Chen. Thank you, Chairman. A point of order. I think my device here is broken. I just want to make sure I'm in the queue. Can you try to press the button? So your device works. So I'm in the 12th place. So maybe our staff can have a look at the machine during or after the meeting. Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, please. Thank you. My team and I are here at this meeting to brief members on the findings or outcome of the public consultation on the regulatory regime on basketball betting and also the proposed amendments to put in place such a regime. The government's established position is that we do not encourage gambling. We take a multi-pronged approach. Enforcement to combat illegal gambling, public education on the harms of gambling addiction, and also provision of counseling and support services for people in need, and regulation of gambling through legislation. On regulation through legislation, the government provides legal gambling channels to meet the public demand for certain gambling activities so that they do not turn to illegal bookmakers. In recent years, quite some members of the public have expressed concerns about the problem of illegal basketball betting in Hong Kong. The Jockey Club's figures show that there were people taking part in illegal basketball betting. In 2023, the total betting turnover was between $32 to $34 billion. In 2024, 430,000 people took part in illegal basketball betting. The estimated turnover or net receipt was between $70 to $90 billion. To combat illegal betting, the Financial Secretary proposed during the budget to regulate basketball betting and also invited the Hong Kong Jockey Club to submit a proposal. Now we have considered the Jockey Club and the Betting and Lotteries Commission's comments. So then we started a 1-month consultation in April. We received 1,063 submissions. 94% of such submissions expressed support for a regulatory regime for basketball betting modeled on the existing arrangement for football betting. 3.4% of the submissions expressed opposition. 2.6% of the respondents did not indicate a clear position. The proposal to regulate basketball betting has the overwhelming support from the respondents. That's why we propose amending Cap 108, that's the betting duty ordinance, and its subsidiary legislation to set out a regulatory regime for basketball betting. Our proposal goes as follows. First, empowering the Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs to grant a license to a party. This is to mitigate the undesirable effect on young people from gambling. Second, taking the same approach as calculating and collecting the betting duty, and that is currently charged at 50% of the net stake receipt for football betting. Third, amending the functions of the BLC to cover matters related to basketball betting. There are concerns in the community about the undesirable effect on young people as a result of regulating basketball betting. People are worried that more young people will take part in betting. I want to point out that the Ping War Fund supports 4 counseling and treatment centers. Among the people receiving treatment at those centers, minors only made up 1 to 2% of those seeking help at those centers over the past 5 years. The Jockey Club's figures show that bettors aged 18 to 21 remained below 2%. No significant change or growth has been recorded in the share of young people taking part in betting. Still, we will stick to the current approach with the betting license. We will come up with licensing conditions to mitigate the undesirable effect on young people. Our proposed licensing conditions include the following. The Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs can set a validity period among other licensing conditions to better regulate the betting of Jockey Club. Second, restricting the number of bet types and class of competitions. And third, barring any betting on basketball matches involving Hong Kong teams or matches taking place in Hong Kong. Fourth, preventing the Jockey Club from taking bets from minors or taking bets based on credit cards. With the panel's support, we will be able to submit the draft bill in July this year. And once that draft bill is passed, we will adopt the same approach as the one in place for football and horse racing. We will issue a licensing, we will grant a license to the Jockey Club. There will be no competition. That's to avoid stimulating the demand for betting. Now we will have regard to the licensing conditions, and we will strictly regulate the betting taking place at Jockey Club to make sure everything works in accordance with the government's requirements. We will also continue to work closely with the Ping War Fund Advisory Committee, and that means strengthening counseling and support for young people. We will also ask the Jockey Club to step up its donations to the Ping War Fund. There are 4 counseling treatment centers. On top of that, we will devote additional resources to a new center specifically for counseling young people. We will also review the other aspects of the work of the Ping War Fund. So we will look at the 4 counseling centers and also the publicity efforts. We will take a range of efforts to enhance the success of our work. There will be public education. We will remind young people that betting with illegal bookmakers is illegal. So we're happy to take questions and comments from members. Thank you. So now I open the floor for questions. 14 members are waiting to speak. Here's the order. Mr. Brave Chen, Mr. Kenneth Leung, Mr. Benson Lok, Reverend Peter Kun, Mr. Kenneth Fok, Dr. Johnny Ng, Ms. Chen Yutming, Mr. Lok Chung Hong, Mr. Vincent Chen, Ms. Connie Lam, Mr. Adrian Ho, Ms. Maggie Chen, Ms. Chan Ho Yan, followed by me. Many members are waiting to speak, so I will strictly enforce the time limit. Let's do 4 minutes per member. Questions and answers inclusive. Please also allow time for the officials to reply. We start with Mr. Brave Chen, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. So I can see most respondents, 94%, more than 94% of the respondents supported a regulatory regime for basketball betting. There are illegal bookmakers. In light of that, having this regulatory regime in place will come with benefits. And then there will be resources to help young people and other people. We will be able to get those people to stop betting with illegal bookmakers. But I do have some questions from my constituents. I'm looking at paragraph 8C. Many jurisdictions already permit legal basketball betting. Do we take joint enforcement actions to crack down on illegal bookmakers? Do we have mechanisms in terms of working with other jurisdictions? I'm also looking at paragraph 27 of the paper. So no taking of bets on basketball matches involving Hong Kong teams or bet matches happening in Hong Kong. There are many matches involving Hong Kong matches. There may be amateur basketball teams. Those may not be formal matches. So will this ban also apply to those amateurs matches? Secretary. I thank Mr. Chen for his questions. In terms of combating illegal betting, our law enforcement agencies will look at the experience of other jurisdictions. On promoting the harms of gambling, we work with neighboring cities. So we go to seminars, summits on publicity about the harms of gambling. On matches, now we have two clear criteria. So no taking of bets for local basketball matches, and no taking of bets on matches involving a Hong Kong basketball team. Just one comment. Say there's a match involving a Hong Kong team. Say you have a series of matches involving Hong Kong's team, but there are other matches involving non-Hong Kong teams, and so it's okay to take bets. Mr. Kenneth Leung. I'm involved in the Hong Kong Jockey Club's charitable trust, so that's a declaration for me. So the outcome of the consultation is clear. Most respondents support this regulatory regime on basketball betting. I believe many such respondents are youth groups. They wrote to the government. They also talked to me about their thoughts on this. Now, on the specifics of the regime, so the future regulatory regime for basketball will be based on the arrangement for football betting. I think that's a good idea. I supported this. I wonder if the Secretary can tell us more about certain other aspects, and that is whether there will be more young people betting. The paper mentions a new counseling center. So what sets this new center apart from the existing 4 counseling centers? If we will have new services at that new center, will there also be extra services at the 4 existing centers? Now, the Pingwall Fund will be doing most of the work about the publicity about gambling. I know there are publicity outreach campaigns at schools. But I wonder if we could also direct our publicity at young people outside schools in the future.
Thank you. First, on publicity targeting youngsters and so on. Well, the Pingwall Fund right now has 4 counseling centers providing counseling service to bettors, and their targets can be from different age groups. And our staff would also offer outreaching services. In other words, they would actually go to the betting centers to reach out to those gamblers or those placing bets. So it's been a very difficult task. Still, they have been doing that. And they would also be publicizing this to them. Yes, we need to have outreaching work in order to reach out to those who would directly participate in gambling activities. And as set out in the paper, the newly proposed center to be set up will target youngsters specifically. So publicity and education targeting the young people, and also outreaching work, and when necessary, counseling services would also be provided. As I said, the existing 4 centers are targeting people from different age groups, and they are from all walks of life. But then for young people, as we are aware, they would be using more cell phones, and they would also be taking part in a lot of online activities. And therefore, such activities might be somewhat different from the other groups, and the change can also be very rapid. And therefore, through this new center, it would be targeting young people in providing publicity and education, and they would also provide specific services targeting the young people. And as just said, other than the Pingwall Fund School Project program, we would be publicizing the harms of gambling addiction. We would also be setting up this new center so that we would be able to reach out to more young people, because after all, to target or to combat illegal gambling, we would have to allow the public to know that there are harms relating to gambling. Next, Mr. Benson, look. Well, Chairman, in principle, I do not encourage gambling, but then as the administration said, in order to combat illegal gambling or bookmaking more effectively, I think I can understand why they will have to legislate to regulate basketball gambling. And then other than supporting the regulation of basketball gambling or betting, we will also support that more resources can be placed by the Hong Kong Jockey Club on restricting or controlling gambling. And we will also have high hopes pinned on the Jockey Club for doing more in terms of developing the local sports sector. So can you elaborate a little more about how the Jockey Club has promised to make more investments in these areas in order to meet public aspiration? And secondly, in the paper, have you explained that with the regulatory regime put in place, how many full-time jobs and also part-time jobs can be created? Thirdly, Chairman, I also noticed that the HKJC, if you want to open an account with them, other than showing your ID card, for people from other places and territories, they can also use their travel documents to set up an account. So we are also talking about horse racing tourism. So I wonder if the HKJC would also have certain strategies which have been submitted to the Bureau as to non-locals who would also like to take part in such activities. I have to declare interest because I'm also a member of the Jockey Club. Well, I understand your sentiments because like many of those who have submitted their views to us, we will have to adopt a multi-pronged approach in combating illegal gambling activities. And one of the strategies is to regulate it so that there can be restricted. There can be certain restrictions on such gambling or betting activities. I hope that you would understand it. Well, just now you asked certain questions. We might only be able to provide the answers later because the first priority now is for us to come up with the amendment bill, and after the bill has been amended, then once we have decided to issue a license to the Jockey Club for regulating basketball betting. They will then design the system for that, and then by then we will only be able to tell that how many extra people they will have to hire and so on. So for the newly added jobs, whether or not we can create more jobs and so on. Well, for such details, after we have had the amendment legislation passed by this council, once the details are sorted out, then we'll be able to provide further details to you. With regard to betting, as you said, for those with Hong Kong ID cards or with valid travel documents, of course, they can open accounts with the Jockey Club to place bets. But then for horse racing, tourism, well, for people coming to Hong Kong for those purposes, the Jockey Club and the relevant bureau would also be working on this. They would also come up with some ideas. As you might be aware, right now in Happy Valley, well, on Wednesday, they would have night races, and they would also include this tourism factor in that. So they don't necessarily have to open an account with the Jockey Club before they can place bets. So they can take part in the horse racing tourism activities. So those are two ideas, two separate ideas. But then we can see that some tourism elements can be added to the event. But then in terms of betting or gambling, we will still be regulating the activities through the licensing regime. Next, Reverend Peter Kuhn. Thank you, Chairman. I believe that none of us would encourage gambling. And indeed, in Asia, Hong Kong has been rather tolerant in this respect. For other places in Asia, well, they are treating this a lot more relaxed than we do. And, well, standing on moral high ground, you might say that it should never be legalized. But then does that mean that they will not exist if we ban them altogether? Well, with the existence of the internet, even if you prohibit it, it doesn't mean that it will not be able to survive. So this is something that we have all been aware of. And basically, would there be difficulties in adducing evidence if you try to sue the illegal bookmakers? So even if we introduce a regulatory regime, it doesn't mean that we can resolve the problems altogether. So, for example, on the rates on the odds and so on, if it's not attractive, then people will still turn to the illegal bookmakers. But then I think it's better than nothing, because it's better to allow them to turn to the illegal bookmakers, because the revenue would only go there. And just now I've heard the administration's introduction. So a new center under the Jockey Club will be set up to target the youngsters. But then in the paper, apparently, the so-called request for help by youngsters in the past has been on the low side. So with the new center set up, will you be able to really target them? Do you have data from other places? If you look at the funds used in the past, apparently those who are older in age would be more prepared to come forward for help in the past. And also for those seeking help under the fund, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have problems generated by the Jockey Club regime. It doesn't mean that they have old debts and so on, and therefore they would need help. For example, right now for soccer betting, and also they are also involved in other betting issues, and that's the reason why they are seeking help. So can you tell us more? Bureau Director. Yes, thank you for your questions. First of all, we have to make it clear to our society and the public. And through this council, I'd also like to send out this message loud and clear. Many people might not be aware of the fact that when you make several clicks on your cell phone, and then everything will be done. But then I'd like to emphasize that for anybody to take part in such illegal betting or gambling activity, he himself is also breaking the law, and therefore he will also have to shoulder some criminal liability. And after they have been punished, well, they can be fined $50,000 or sentenced to jail for up to 9 months. So I hope that this message can be sent out loud and clear. Some people might think that, well, even if you have done it, nobody would know. In fact, at this day and age, technology will mean that you can be tracked down, and therefore, in terms of combating illegal betting, the administration has been resorting to different technologies in order to conduct investigation to crack down on such activities. Well, on the new centers to be set up, well, you're right in the sense that the Pink Wall Fund is not just about gambling activities operated by the Jockey Club. So whoever is having this problem of addictive gambling, then he can approach the Center for help, because the Pink Wall Fund subsidized centers will be prepared to offer help to anybody seeking help. So can I continue? Yes, please. So I've answered your third question. Yes, your understanding is correct. With regard to the youth center to be set up, the reason why we would like to set up this dedicated center for the youth, that's because the existing 4 centers are now targeting people from all age groups. We hope that there would be one dedicated center for the young, so that more support services can be targeted at the young. Okay, if you have similar questions, all you need to do is to say that that question has been answered. That would also save you some time. Next, Mr. Johnny Ng, or rather Mr. Kenneth Falk. I'd like to declare interest. I'm also a member of the Jockey Club in considering whether or not a new project has to be set up, because in the past they can only resort to illegal channels, and there have been problems in cracking down on such activities. And now some 94% of the respondents supported you, and you've also managed to achieve the 3 purposes, and that's the reason why you're prepared to introduce legislation, and therefore I'm prepared to support it because there is public support. And also for the 50% of the betting duty, that would also come as revenue, and I would support it. There have been different sayings in the community as to how that would be used. I think the most important purpose is to divert the unlawful or illicit revenue, so that it would come back to the administration. But then it depends on the cost, because you would have to ensure that you'd be able to achieve the initial objective, in order to achieve the purpose of getting the 50% revenue. I think this is very different from soccer betting, and therefore you will have to sort out with the Jockey Club as to how the revenue can be shared between the Jockey Club and the administration. Thirdly, why I'm more concerned about this, because I've looked at elsewhere practices. For example, they would also make use of the revenue from gambling to promote the local sports activities, and also elite sports and other professional sectors and so on. Well, if you look at the sector, in fact, resources have been stretched very thin, and therefore not much has been given to professionalizing the sector and so on. Yes, the administration's fiscal management means that it's not possible to set aside a certain percentage of the revenue for developing sports and so on. But then once you regulate basketball betting, you would also have to ensure that there would be appropriate investment in sports and culture. My concern is that with basketball betting regulating regime in place, you would also have to provide better support to the sports sector. Finally, I think it's also a good time for us to review the strategy of the Pink Wall Fund, because I can see that the Jockey Club has set aside some $50 million for that purpose, and the Pink Wall Fund has also got a very rich rich reserve. I can see that there is about $124 million left in this reserve. So can more be done? Because when you look at the breakdown, in the index, some $80 million would go to counseling and treatment services. But then what about school program? Only about $500,000. And also for some other campaigns, in 2023, only about $44,000. In 2024, about $6 million. So with a new project, you would also have to promote it. You would also have to do more education. So can you conduct a review on that?
Secretary, please be brief. Now, on the duty level, I thank the member for bringing that up. We will keep an eye on that. Now, on the tax revenue, whether that should go into supporting sports, The tax revenue will form part of the government's general revenue, meaning it will go into the government's coffers. The government does have a sports policy, and we would also like to see the Jockey Club giving more resources to our delivery of sports policy on the different counseling and treatment centers and the work of the Pingwo Fund. At our last panel meeting, I made a pledge. There will be a new center specifically for young people. For the existing 4 centers and the effectiveness of the work, we will review all that. Dr. Johnny Ng. I support this legislative proposal. Illegal basketball betting has been on the rise. More and more young people bet with illegal bookmakers. And that's why we want to combat such illegal betting. We want to channel the money that would otherwise go into illegal betting into legal channels. So the proposed duty level is at 50% of the net stake receipt. I find that appropriate. Football betting has been around for more than 10 years, and that's tried and tested. So I think this rate is acceptable. So once we get this bill through, we will need to keep an eye on our regulatory regime. We have to make sure the legal betting channel is competitive and attractive compared with the illegal channels. Of course, we don't want to see people gamble, but those people may end up betting with illegal bookmakers all the same, and that's undesirable. Now, I also want to ask about the timetable. So will the legislation be completed within this legislative session? Secretary. Dr. Ng made a point about keeping our legal betting regime competitive vis-a-vis illegal channels. The Hong Kong Jockey Club does not only keep an eye on its own system, it also keeps an eye on the illegal betting channels. The Jockey Club proposes ways to direct betting with illegal channels into regulated and responsible betting channels, and that's ongoing work. Now, on the timetable, we hope that we can provide the draft bill in July if we secure member support at the panel meeting today, and then depending on the deliberations of the Legislative Council with member support, we would like to see the bill getting over the line within this legislative session, but we do respect the bill's progress at LegCo, so it will depend on the scrutiny at LegCo. Ms. Chen Yudming. We had a meeting in April. We discussed this potential regulatory regime on basketball betting. Now I want to make a few points. At our last meeting, we were told that the outcome of the public consultation would determine our next step. So do we have a timetable for the legislative amendment exercise? I got some comments from the public. The Hong Kong Jockey Club will have more gambling activities under its management, but we don't have a dedicated department regulating all that work. So I wonder if we can have a dedicated department to oversee gambling. The Jockey Club estimates that 49% of illegal betting will turn to legal channels. But then illegal bookmakers offer more attractive odds. So I think the Hong Kong Jockey Club should have a more ambitious target. Let's aim for more than 49%. Let's get more people to turn away from illegal bookmakers and to the legal channels instead. So we have to show people that the Hong Kong Jockey Club offers a more reliable betting channel. And since the Hong Kong Jockey Club will be generating greater revenue, I hope the Jockey Club can increase their commitment and resources to youth causes. So I would like a written reply on what more the Hong Kong Jockey Club will do in terms of the amount they can commit to youth development. Secretary, as I said in my reply to Dr. Johnny Ng, subject to members' support at this panel meeting, we will submit the draft bill next month. The passage of that bill will depend on legislative scrutiny progress. So for this exercise, we will amend the betting duty ordinance. The proposals will include empowering the Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs to grant a license. There will also be a change to the functions of the Betting and Lotteries Commission so that their work scope will also cover basketball betting. For gambling, such as horse racing and football betting, the Hong Kong Jockey Club submits regular reports to us on the gambling activities. The BLC looks at those reports. Now, on the mobile app of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, we will remind HKJC about this. Ms. Chen would also like HKJC to provide more details on extra resources to support our sports policy. Now, we will ask HKJC to provide those details. Chairman, I want to declare an interest. I'm a member of the Jockey Club. No follow-up? No. Mr. Lok Chung Hong. Thank you, Chairman. Family values and family education are top of mind for me. You relax the rules on gambling, more people may go into gambling, and we have seen broken families because people gamble excessively. And now we're going for the lesser evil by proposing a regulatory regime for basketball betting. Now, we shouldn't just give our support for the Jockey Club managing basketball betting lightly. The Jockey Club said that in 2023, there were 100 to 150,000 bettors for illegal basketball betting. In 2024, the number of bettors rose to 430,000. The betting turnover last year was $70 to $90 billion. So we're talking about more than doubling over a year, and that's staggering. So we have experience with football betting where some of the underground betting went into the legal channels. So I wonder, for basketball betting, we're trying to channel bettors into legal channels. People will be better protected, and people are unaware that placing bets with illegal bookmakers is actually illegal. So this is where publicity is in order. Now, with enforcement, I can appreciate the difficulties. Can we get the police to show us cases of successful enforcement? It doesn't matter whether you're placing a bet or you're running an illegal bookmaking racket. We want successful enforcement cases. Of course, we don't encourage betting, but if you do, you should turn to a legal channel, that is the Hong Kong Jockey Club. That would mean extra tax revenue. The Hong Kong Jockey Club also supports local sports development. As Mr. Kenneth Fox said, can we set aside some extra tax revenue from basketball betting into our local sports development? I would like a response on these points, please. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. As I said in my opening remarks, we are of one mind with the member. We want more publicity and education in the community so that young people will be aware that placing bets with illegal bookmakers is an offense and they will be held criminally liable. This applies to the bookmakers and the ones placing the bets. And that's why I said we will review the publicity of the Pink War Fund and also other efforts. We want to get this message across. Now, on enforcement, we will step up work on that front. We have a number of ways to combat illegal betting. Enforcement is one of them. Public education is another front. And we also provide support for those with gambling addiction. And the last option is regulation of gambling when it becomes rampant. So we are of one mind with Mr. Lok. We should indeed step up enforcement and also publicity and education. We want to make it clear that gambling illegally is a criminal offense. Mr. Vincent Chang. Now, I share the views of other members. I can see the reason behind this proposed regulatory regime on basketball betting. We have to deal with illegal betting. So in the future, we will have to work on illegal bookmakers overseas. Now, on the concerns about young people gambling, there will be an extra counseling center. I'm looking at the Pink War Fund and its 4 treatment centers. I don't think that goes far enough. Take basketball betting. You need people who actually know the sport. People who know the sport are more likely to gamble on the sport. Young people who play basketball, young people who watch basketball matches are more likely to bet. Now we have inter-school basketball matches. Many people take part. Many people watch the matches. Can we talk to the Education Bureau? Can we have anti-betting publicity among schools? Now, my next point has to do with tax revenue and the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charitable Trust. People would like to see the Jockey Club make a greater commitment to sports development. So we would like some details on how many extra resources there will be for youth or sports development when the regulatory regime for basketball betting is in place. Secretary, we want to set up a new counseling and treatment center specifically for young people. A new counseling center will be able to deliver what Mr. Chen just mentioned. We will work with the Education Bureau and the youth sector. There will be targeted publicity, targeted measures for us to reach our target groups. That's why we propose a new center. Mr. Chang is familiar with sports. We welcome Mr. Chang's input on how we can promote the message among young people. We will be able to deliver the new services through a new center. Now, on the Jockey Club Charitable Trust and what we can do with the extra tax revenue in promoting sports. As I said in my earlier replies, we will take away the message and pass it on to the Jockey Club. Ms. Chen Yunming would like further details on its subsequent plans on extra resources for supporting the delivery of our sports policy. Now, on using the charitable trust The Hong Kong Jockey Club is a non-profit making organization. Their income should be invested in the community. So we will talk to the Jockey Club about how they can contribute more to the community.
Next, Ms. Lam So White. Thank you, Chairman. With regard to the proposed regulatory regime for basketball betting, well, as said, gambling has impact on both the young people and our society and even families, and there have been a lot of tragedies. And therefore, targeting the young people, I have two suggestions. First, we'll consider that for those aged between 18 and 25, will you set up a ceiling for betting for them? Because the paper says that for those 18 to 21, the bettors account for only less than 2% of the total gambling population. But then, let's say if I borrow an account of an adult, then I will still be able to place bets because there are loopholes and you will have to plug them. So for basketball betting, well, it can be even more popular because NBA has been very popular amongst the young people. But then once it's legalized, the threshold will be even lower. So for those aged between 18 and 25, with regard to the monthly betting ceiling, that can be set at, say, $500, $1,000. This is a very bold suggestion. So can that be done? And also, there should also be a sunset clause for such gambling policies. The administration can't say that once the green light is given, it cannot be set back. So I suggest that there should be a sunset clause so that in the future, if statistics shows that the gambling population is on the rise, let's say within 3 years, if there has been a rise by more than 15%, or if the younger people are betting more seriously, then you will have to review the situation, or you might even have to halt this regime altogether. So can that be considered? Bureau Director. Thank you, Ms. Lam, for your suggestion. I understand that Ms. Lam attaches a lot of importance to young people education as well as family harmony. And therefore, as a professional social worker, you are giving this very innovative suggestion. I can fully understand that sentiment because you're taking youngsters very seriously. Well, the two specific proposals that you made, number one, with regard to targeting a specific group so that there would be a betting ceiling to be imposed on them, well, that may not be able to achieve the effect that you said. That is how we would be able to step up publicity and education targeting the young, because as you said earlier, they can always borrow somebody else's account to place bets. So as you just said, even if we were to set a ceiling on betting, we may not be able to readily resolve the problem. And therefore, I think we have to look at the root of the problem. We will have to do a better job in terms of publicity and education, because we will have to send out loud and clear as to the harms that can be done by illegal gambling and so on. And therefore, we would like to set up a new center, and through members' efforts and also the work of the community, we'd like to hammer home this message to the young people, and that's the most important thing. And secondly, you propose to have a sunset clause. In fact, that would not be necessary because under the law, it has already provided that the Jockey Club will be a licensee, and the Bureau will be the licensing authority, because the license is issued by the licensing authority, and there is a fixed term to the licensing period. If something changes, and if we want to scrap that license altogether, then there is no need to have that sunset clause, and still we will be able to do it. Next, Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I support the Bureau for his hard work all along, because I understand that during the consultation period you conducted a very detailed consultation, and you also conducted a number of studies, and I'm grateful for that. So I'd like to ask the Bureau Director first on the betting duty. What is the percentage of that? You also said that some 50% of the betting duty would be shared with the government. So what are the considerations? What are the prerequisites in coming up with this 50% threshold? And secondly, given the current financial position of the SAR government, there is a lot to be desired, and therefore have you considered increasing that sharing rate? And secondly, I understand that the Jockey Club has been plowing back some of the revenue from its betting duty in community services and so on. So with this additional regulatory regime, has the administration considered moving an amendment so that you can increase your say in determining how that money is to be spent by the Jockey Club, so that with the additional revenue received, something can be done to promote Hong Kong's economic development? And thirdly, is about getting rid of gambling addiction. I understand that you've been working with some centers to help the pathologic gamblers. I understand that a lot of brilliant work has been done, but then for some of the betting addicts, in fact, they may not be fully aware of the problem, and the group size might be very large, and therefore with the introduction of the new regulatory regime on basketball betting, I'm sure a lot more people will be involved in basketball betting, and the amount can be very substantial. Some people might not be aware of the fact that they are already pathologic gamblers, and still they would need treatment. Yes, I thank you for your suggestion and ideas. First, on the sharing of the betting duty revenue. In fact, in considering this threshold, actually, that's part of our consideration in coming up with this regulatory regime. We have made reference to the soccer betting regulatory regime, and the sharing rate, as you might be aware, is actually the same as soccer betting. And as some members have suggested, is about the competitiveness of the Jockey Club when it comes to basketball betting, because we will have to make sure that when compared to illicit gambling activities, it would still have to be competitive, or else we will not be able to channel such funds from illegal betting to the Hong Kong Jockey Club. But then I also understand that some in the community might suggest that you should charge them more in order to help with our financial situation. But then in determining whether or not we should regulate basketball betting, our primary consideration is to combat illegal gambling. It's not for the purpose of increasing revenue for the government before we decided to introduce this regulatory framework. And precisely because of that, in introducing this regulatory regime, we have to ensure that this regulatory regime will have to be competitive when compared to the illegal bookmakers, or else we would not be able to achieve our purpose. So that's the primary consideration. As to charitable work, I agree with what the Honourable Member just said. And during the consultation exercise, some suggested that the HKJC would also have to step up its efforts when it comes to charitable work. In particular, there should be more services provided by the Jockey Club. That is something that we will look into. Finally, on the counseling service to get rid of the bad habit. Well, indeed, as I said, the centers are doing a lot of outreaching services, because we not just wait there for people to come forward to say that I'm a pathologic gambler and therefore I need help. So we will have to reach out in order to provide service to them. Next, Maggie Chen, thank you. I have to declare that I'm a member of the Jockey Club. I also support the proposed regulatory regime for basketball betting, and the Jockey Club should also be the licensee to run this service. And on page 3 of the paper, para 8F, you also said that, for the revenue from this, that would also be used in livelihood and also welfare. And the director also said that a new center will be set up to target the young people. And some colleagues have also said that they are concerned about some schools and families who might be adversely affected. Well, my suggestion is that both the JC and the administration will have to work together to make use of some local groups and also the family council, so that the parents will set a good role model to their children, so that there would be some positive values instilled in the children. Well, I understand that you're actually organizing this family election or good family election. I hope that you can also factor this in. So there should be certain elements to prevent people from falling into the habit of gambling. That would also help our young people from being obsessed with gambling. Thank you, Maggie Chen. Chairman, I understand that Ms. Chen has been very concerned about women's development as well as family and children's rights and interests. Well, in fact, you're right in the sense that, well, just now, we also talked about our last panel meeting, and also on this occasion, we also said that the Ping Wo Fund has a role to play, and we would also have to measure the cost effectiveness of its work. Ping Wo Fund cannot work on its own. We will have to work with different sectors of the community in promoting our work, and therefore we've been working with local women's groups and also the family council and also the related bodies in order to make sure that there are harms to be done by gambling, and therefore that is also the entire purpose of introducing this regulatory regime. And therefore we will also be reviewing the work of the Ping Wo Fund and also the effectiveness of its work, so that the Ping Wo Fund and also the stakeholders would also have to work together in order to promote and achieve the synergy effect of working together. And also the youth center to be set up would also serve the same purpose. That is, we are fully aware of members' concern about youth welfare or well-being, and therefore the new center will also be working with different stakeholders in a community. We expect that the new center would be working with some youth groups and also some local bodies to come up with more targeted programs, so that they'll be looking at the needs and interests of the young people, so that they can be provided with the services. We have already overrun on this item. Still, 3 members would like to ask questions. Anyone else? If not, then I'll draw a line there. So just 3 members. Ms. Chen Hoi-Yan, Mr. Kwok Wai-Keung, and myself. So I'll draw a line after the 3 have spoken. Chen Hoi-Yan. Thank you, Chairman. Well, obsessive gambling is something that we are raw against. But then we have to face the reality. Basketball gambling has been in existence for some time, and therefore we have to face the reality, and therefore we will have to have a regulatory regime. And as we have all said, well, we will have to specifically ban underage to place bets in basketball betting. The administration said that a multi-pronged approach would be adopted, for example, the setting up of counseling center and so on. It should not just be the responsibility of the Home Affairs and Youth Bureau. You will also have to talk to other stakeholders, including the Jockey Club. Well, I understand that it's very popular for people to use the cell phone to place bets online. And therefore, the betting system would set this age limit, and then if you're underage, you would not be allowed to place bets. But then whether or not the user is indeed an adult, you would not be able to tell. So we do have this bio recognition system, for example, fingerprints and also facial recognition system. So you will have to make sure that people will register, and you will have to verify whether or not they are adults, because sometimes they might use their family members' cell phones, or they might just pass off as an adult before they register. It's not just confined to basketball betting. It can also apply to soccer betting and so on. You will also have to make sure that you'll be able to verify the age of the account holder before you would allow him to place bets. And earlier on at the health services panel, we also discussed whether or not there should be a student health center to conduct body check for youngsters before they reach secondary school level. So you would also ask about the family condition, and given the current situation, you can also ask if any family member has a habit of gambling. If that is the case, then you can also notify the school early so that they can pay more attention to this situation. If there are adults in the family placing bets all the time, then you can also do more preventive work to prevent them from falling into the habit of gambling. And then you can also do it more specifically. That would also require collaboration with other stakeholders. So you will have to do more prevention. It's better than cure. So you will have to do a lot more preventive work.
Secretary, I thank Ms. Chen for her two suggestions. The first point has to do with the Jockey Club's own mobile app. If it's a website or mobile app run by other bodies, and you simply check a box confirming you're over 18 when you're not, and you place a bet, you're breaking the law because that's illegal gambling. Now, as for the Jockey Club's mobile app, we will pass on this message to the Jockey Club. Now, we can do something with the technology. We will be able to prevent young people from betting. Now, on the second suggestion, which is about families, that's why we need a review of the Pink War Fund's work. It's more than just about funding certain programs. We want to foster collaboration between different parties. Families are a key part of the community. So we will work with the Pink War Fund about the member suggestion. Any follow-up? No. Mr. Kwok Wai-kang. Thank you, Chairman. The Secretary stressed time and again that our goal is to regulate basketball betting. And there will be extra tax revenue as a result of the regulatory regime, and people will associate this proposal with our fiscal deficit. Now, I want to express my disagreement in principle. The paper sets out pros and cons, but then I want to make this point. Let's look at the US. In 2023, for those aged between 18 to 35, (9% of that age group became problem gamblers for basketball betting. For casinos, that rate is only 4%. And then in 2022, I'm talking about survey done every 5 years. The latest one was 2022. Now, Pink War Fund's report in 2022 has this to say. Young people have their favorite teams, so they bet on their teams, and the betting participation rate is 50%. Many young people play basketball. Young people may associate support for their team with betting on that team. It's okay for you to just cheer for your team. You can root for your team. That's fine. But then seeing betting on your team as a way to support your team is simply unhealthy. Let's also look at the treatment services. Now, among the people seeking treatment, half of them seek treatment because of football betting. And now we are trying to propose basketball betting. Will that mean more people betting? Now, so far the figures show just 2% for those aged below 18. We should look at gambling problems for adults as well. People become addicted to betting because of football, and we have to be mindful of that too. And we also have to be mindful of minors learning from their parents who bet. Will the paywall fund solve this problem? Parents who bet may have a long-lasting impact on their children, so I do have some reservations about the proposal myself. Secretary, I thank Mr. Kwok for his comments. I can see where he's coming from. Let's say we decide not to propose this regulatory regime. The problems mentioned by Mr. Kwok remain there. Illegal betting is happening and it's a serious problem. That's why we stressed this multi-pronged approach: law enforcement, education, and counseling. And when illegal betting is rampant, we provide a regulated channel for betting so that the gambling happens in a more confined and responsible manner. And that's our idea. You support a team, but that does not mean you have to bet on the team. That's right. So we have to focus on publicity in the community. Influence from family members is also a factor. We need not only the paywall fund, we also need community stakeholders to work together on this. Now it's my turn, and I'm the last one to speak for this item. I'm a member of the Jockey Club. And I personally do not support gambling. The only reason for regulating basketball betting is to crack down on illegal betting. We want to curb gambling. That's the only reason that I can see for this proposal. So for me, I think I simply tolerate basketball betting instead of supporting it. There are different ways to go about this. We already have football betting in place, so we can adopt an approach that's modeled on football betting, and that's fine with me. But I do want to make some points. Some members argued for a higher duty rate. That may not work because you already have a certain rate set for football betting. Now, with this proposal, the Jockey Club will see greater revenue. Can we turn that extra revenue into support for local sports development? I echo Mr. Kenneth Falk's suggestion. Can we also get the Jockey Club to set aside a sum of money from the extra revenue for sports development? So the result won't be just extra tax revenue for the coffers, but there will also be money for sports. Now, we talked about the paywall fund often. But there's more we can do than just the paywall fund. Gambling among young people is top of mind for us. We want to discourage gambling among young people. Young people spend time in school, they spend time with their families, and then there are other community stakeholders. Can we get these stakeholders together to send a message to young people? Can we get young people to internalize the harms of gambling? Concerted effort on these fronts will be able to help us mitigate the harm of basketball betting. Chairman, I agree with you. Subject to member support for this proposal, and we proceed with the legislative amendment, and once that bill is passed, we will talk to the Jockey Club about the licensing conditions. And in that process, we will also tell the Jockey Club about giving extra resources to the government to deliver our sports policy. Other members have also made this point. They would like the Jockey Club to provide more details, so we will ask the Jockey Club for that. Now, on promoting the harm of gambling, I agree with our members. We cannot just rely on the Ping Wo Fund, but the Ping Wo Fund will be one of our instruments. The Ping Wo Fund will support events. We can get different stakeholders such as women's groups, youth groups, the education sector. We can work with those sectors to make our publicity a success. And that's the most essential work to address gambling addiction. So we are done with this item. We have overrun by 15 minutes. So we now come to the fourth item on the agenda, and that is preparatory work for the 15th National Games. Chairman, so we will submit the draft proposal. So if members have no objection, the government will proceed with tabling the legislative amendment. So we come to the fourth item, preparations for the 15th National Games. Joining us are Ms. Rosanna Law, Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, and Mr. Yuan Taekang, Head of the National Games Coordination Office. A reminder to members who would like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button now. We first invite the Secretary to walk us through this item. Thank you, Chairman. We have submitted a paper to brief members on the HKSL government's work in co-hosting the 15th National Games, the 12th National Games for persons with disabilities, and their 9th National Special Olympic Games. The National Games and the Special Games will be held in November and December this year. The HKSCR will host 8 events of the National Games and 1 mass participation event. We will also help Zhuhai and Shenzhen with organizing the road cycling and athletics marathon events, both being cross-boundary events. Now, for the Special Games, we will host 4 sports events and 1 mass participation event. These 2 sports events will be co-hosted by Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau for the first time, and this is a matter of significance. So, in May 2023, we set up the organizing committee for the 15th National Games of the HKSCR. That's chaired by the Chief Secretary, and there's also a steering committee below that, and then further below we have 5 coordinating committees. In October 2023, the CSTB also set up the coordination office for the National Games. The office implements the policies decided upon by the steering committee and the organization committee, and we will also take forward the various tasks to prepare for the events. We have run test events for the 8 sports events, and we also took part in 2 test events for cross-boundary events. We will learn from the experience and be prepared for the games. Preparations aside, we also follow up on other matters, such as recruiting and training volunteers, following up on reception arrangements. We also work through different channels on publicity for the National Games and Special Games, and that's also to bolster confidence and also patriotism. Once the ticketing arrangements are finalized, we will get the tourism sector involved in coming up with tourism products. There will be publicity to get out-of-town visitors to come here for the games. Making the organization of the games a success is a key task for the SCR government. we will do our best to work with Guangzhou and Macau to organize a simple, safe, and wonderful event, and that's the National Games and the Special Games. I now give the floor to Mr. Yuan Tak-keng, the head of the Coordination Office. He will tell us about the preparations for the Games.
Over to you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Chairman. As the Bureau Director just said, actually the 15th NG, and also we have the NGD. Well, the NG will be held from the 9th to the 21st of November, while the NGD will be held from the 8th to the 15th of December 2025. We have the two mascots, Si Yang Yang and Le Rong Rong, and we also have the logo. So we have this to represent Hong Kong, Guangdong, and Macau, and that's a coffee tree, Bohemia, and Lotus. And we also have this, these are two slogans, and that is a dream for the GBA and so on. So if you look at the structure, we have the play for the dreams in GBA and also dream for the games in GBA. We have the preparatory committee, and the secretary for CST would also be the head, and we also have different stakeholders joining the work of the committee. And under the preparatory committee, we have the leadership under the permanent secretary of the bureau. We also have different policy bureaus and departments representatives who would be involved in the specific preparatory work, and also the CS4A would also be giving instructions to that committee. And under the steering committee, the coordinating office as well as the relevant bodies and departments would also be working on 5 areas, and coordinating committees have been set up. The first is competitions, and as the name suggests, it will be responsible for the 8 events, and also the several events are under the NGD to be held in Hong Kong. Well, other than government representative, we also have the SG and OC, and also the relevant Olympics committees representatives, and also the different NSAs would also be involved. So the test runs, and also in November and December, it would also be responsible for organizing the competitions. The second coordinating committee is on immigration, security, and accreditation. So as a lot of immigration security would be involved, and that would also be coordinated at this committee. Third is media publicity and community relations, and that's responsible for the 2 events publicity. And we also have other representatives from the Tourism Commission and Tourism Office, and also the Culture and the Culture and Sports Bureau will also be involved. Another coordinating committee is on medical services, because in the course of the events, well, all the medical services, including anti-doping and so on, that would be the responsibility of this committee. Finally, we have the transport and traffic arrangements. So all the delegations and the athletes' traffic and transport arrangements will be placed under this. And also when the public go to see such events, the traffic arrangements would also be prepared by this committee. Well, for the Hong Kong events, we had a total of 8 events. And on the 31st of October, we're going to have the triathlon event, or the beach volleyball. So that will be held in Victoria Park. And some of the events will have had group games before then. And then for handball and beach volleyball, well, by the end of October and early November, some events will take place, and then we will only have the gold medal on the 12th of November. And then we had basketball that would be held at the Hong Kong Coliseum, and then for the rugby events that would be held in the Kai Tak Sports Park, and also for the golf course, that would be held at the Fan Ling Golf Course, and then the cycling events will be held at the Velodrome. So for the opening and closing ceremony on the 9th and 21st of November, there will be no event taking place in Hong Kong. And then another mass event would be bowling. And then in August, that would be held at the bowling center at the Kai-Tak Sports Park. Other than the 8 events in Hong Kong, well, we also have 2 cross-boundary events. One is road cycling, and that would be held in November. And then for the athlete marathon, that would be held on the 15th of November. And then for the NGD, well, for Bosnia, that would be held in the Kai-Tak Sports Park. The rest will be held elsewhere. Well, that will be taking place in early to mid-December. But then the formal dates will be announced by the NGD or CDPF. Well, in terms of event preparation, the 8 competition events, the test runs or test events have already been held on the 1st of June. And then during those events, we have already obtained a lot of pressured experience. We would also be working with the Sports Association and also the GASC. We have done a lot of review about the events. And in many areas, there is a lot to be learned from. And in November last year and also in February this year, we have also completed some events. Well, for Hong Kong, we don't have to hold test events for some of the events, but then in the relevant venues, we would also have some trial runs. For example, a local event will be held, and in some cases, international events would also be held. And then for the events, for the venues to be used by the NGD, we would also be doing a rehearsal in order to test run how that can be done for the NGD. And then, as I said, we'd be summarizing the experience, and we would also be working with the CDPF, the GASC, and also the Guangdong Provincial Executive Committees and so on, and also on immigration, clearance, and traffic and transport arrangements. We will do our publicity early, so as to ensure that for vehicles that will have to cross the boundary and for people who have to cross the boundary, early arrangement will be made in order to make sure that everything will be run smoothly and inconvenience will be minimized. And also for mass participation events, announcement will be made as to how spectator events will be held, and a lot of work is being done. So we'll be making announcements in due course. As to other events, well, other than the events themselves, a lot of other preparatory work is necessary, one of which is voluntary work, because we need to have a lot of volunteers. So out of the 30,000 plus applicants, we have already selected 18,000 who have been provisionally approved, and training is offered. And then by the end of this month, training will be completed. About 16,000 formal volunteers will be selected, and around 2,000 would also be youth volunteers. In terms of publicity, in November last year, well, that's a countdown 1 year beforehand. So we have been making use of online and offline publicity channels, and we have also put up a lot of banners and also posters on lampposts and so on. And we have also produced video clips to enhance the understanding of the community on this. And from January to July this year, we have also been looking at the arrangements in Guangdong, including the introduction of the mascots and also the logo and so on. So in Hong Kong, we have also introduced some collection points for people to take pictures in order to create the atmosphere for the event. In many venues, we have also placed publicity materials on the NG, and there are also mascots placed for people to take pictures. And then by the third stage, that is by starting from August, is a 100-day countdown. So starting from the 2nd of August, a lot of major events will be held to welcome this event, and there will also be the sending of a torch in order to enhance the spirit for these 2 events. But as I said, in the central waterfront. We also have collection points and in some public buildings, at some public transport interchange and parks and so on. So in some of the conspicuous ports, we would also raise flags and so on. Another major publicity activity is also part of the NG. So a lot of mass participation events will also be taking place. Other than the 34 competition events, there are also some mass participation events. So we have this logo of I want to join the NG, and we have already selected some of the representatives in Hong Kong to take part in such events, and some have actually started, and some competitions have taken place. And at the community level and at schools, we have already organized a series of promotion activities so that more people will understand that National Games is coming up. And in terms of advertising campaign, we are also working with Macau and Guangdong to talk about the arrangements. And for Hong Kong, as other major events, we will also have the media, the main media center that would be set up at the Chongshan. So that would be set up as a media center. So other than the main media center at the major events, we would also have the venue-based media center, including local and overseas media. They would also be working at the Sun Yat. They would also be working at these media centers, including the Sun Yat-sen Memorial Park Media Center, and also they would also be receiving signals from Guangdong and Macau. And then after receiving signals and so on, that would also be sent out to other media agencies so that they can also report on the NG's events. So for the 4 boundary checkpoints, including the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge and also the Shenzhen Bay boundary crossing, they would also provide special channels for the athletes and the delegations, and special arrangements would also be made, and there would also be dedicated hotels. And we are not going to build new hotels, and because of the principle of simplicity, and therefore we have already selected a number of hotels close to the venues for the delegates and also the athletes. And also we would also have to make sure that catering is done properly, because we will have to ensure that the athletes would be able to have healthy diets, and also anti-doping is also very important. Specific arrangements are also put in place. Traffic and transport, we will also be providing escort services for them. And also at Romsey Street, starting from October, we're going to have this traffic and control transport coordination and command centers to be set up in October. And there will also be an overall work coordination mechanism for market development. We will be working with local industries and so on. We have got their support already. And once all the details are sorted out, we will be making announcements to the public. As to franchising initiatives, in accordance with the 15th NG, starting from early this year, we have already recruited some retailers and manufacturers in Hong Kong. A dozen or so of merchandisers have taken part, and by the end of June, we would also be organizing a media session, and then we would also be selling the products in due course. And then ticketing would also take place simultaneously. We will be using a common platform to sell tickets. We are still sorting out the details. Once the ticketing policy and specific arrangements are finalized, we will also be making announcements to the public. Finally, all I'd like to say is, as I said, we have been working closely with Guangdong, and the GASC has also been sending delegates to Hong Kong to regularly review the situation. And there were 2 delegations sent to Hong Kong in February this year, and they have been very happy with the progress made so far. And they are of the view that we are able to tie in with the work of the 15th NG in terms of its plan and arrangements. And of course, in the next few months, a lot of work will have to be done, and we will be sparing no efforts in making sure that it's going to be a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yuan. And now open the floor for questions from members. 8 members are waiting to speak Here's the lineup: Mr. Kenneth Lau, Mr. Kenneth Falk, Ms. Jovi Chen, Dr. Johnny Ng, Ms. Chen Yutmei, Mr. Vincent Chang, Mr. Benson Look, followed by me. So let's do 4 minutes each member, questions and answers inclusive. Mr. Kenneth Lau. So for the first time, the National Games will be co-hosted by Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau in November this year. And for Hong Kong, we will be hosting a number of events like basketball, fencing, etc. There are test events to make sure the events will be successful, and the publicity is meant to be extensive. So here are my questions. It's about the publicity and torch relay. Now, starting from August, phase 3 of the publicity will start. That's to boost the popularity of the games and also boost public participation. There will be a 100-day countdown, and a torch relay, and also a sports for all day. There will also be city dress up. Now, on the torch relay, I have a question about the details. Do we have a preliminary plan for the route? Will the torch bearers go through places like the Kai Sports Park, the Peak, the Golden Bohemia Square? Will we be able to promote the message of tourism everywhere in Hong Kong? Now, I know the principle for the games will be simple, safe, and wonderful. Now, Hong Kong has a role to play in ESG. So when it comes to green design and low carbon elements, do we incorporate those elements and do we reflect them in the games? Secretary. In early August, we will have a countdown event that will be 100 days from the games. We did the same with the 1-year countdown last year. So when we hit the 100-day mark, the focus will be on the preparations and the details. On the torch relay, we're talking to the National Administration of Sport in Macau and Guangdong. We cannot disclose the details yet. When we do have the details, we will let you know in detail. There will be a torch run. We will consider comments in designing the route so that we can have the landmarks of Hong Kong along that route. Now, on green and low carbon element, a key goal for the upcoming games is that the games will need to be carbon neutral. For the upcoming games, we're not building any new structures. We will not have an athletes' village. There will be no new stadiums to be built just for the games. We will be using our existing venues. As for the other green measures, our approach will be low carbon and carbon neutral. Any follow-up? No. Mr. Kenneth Falk. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the organizing committee and the secretary for the work. Preparing for the games is no easy task. Organizing games are complex, and this time we're also cooperating with Guangdong and Macau. Nothing is easy in this process. Our test events have been successful. We just had the test event for triathlon. I talked to this official from the world body for triathlon and they were impressed. So I want to thank the organizing committee for the work. And I'm also glad to see what happened with the volunteer recruitment. We were looking for 10,000 volunteers and then 30,000 people applied. I interviewed some of the applicants, we got people from all age groups. They were really dedicated, and we were glad to see that. The first point of contact for visitors and athletes is volunteers. So let's get the training right for the volunteers. Now, on live casting the games on TV, most people will be watching the games on TV. In the mainland, CCTV is doing that. Macau is also relying on CCTV. But then for Hong Kong, can we get all TV stations in Hong Kong involved? Each TV station had a different focus and interpretation on previous Olympic Games when the broadcasting rights went to the different TV stations. And for the upcoming national games, can we get all TV stations involved? TV stations are commercial bodies. If they can start early, they can start reaching out for sponsorships early. I'm sure Mr. Yeung is well aware of that. And also for RTHK, now when we were talking about broadcasting rights for Olympics, the RTHK said they did not have the expertise and the hardware. So can we take the national games as a capacity building opportunity so that the RTHK can play a bigger role in promoting sports? Secretary. I think the sports federations and Olympic Committee because all our work requires the professional support and advice as well as involvement from our sports federation and Olympic Committee as well as national sports associations. We need all that to make our work a success. We're also grateful to the NSAs and the SF&OC for their massive support. On the volunteers, now we have selected 18,000 adult volunteers. Now we have gone through 2 rounds of training. Now for the younger volunteers, we will announce the results soon. Many schools, uniform bodies, and large organizations have signed up, and we're looking to have 2,000 young volunteers through the national games who want to strengthen their national identity and instill in them the spirit of community service. Now on TV, for Guangdong and Macau, CCTV will be producing the shows. Now for Hong Kong's free-to-air TV stations, there will be broadcasting or live casting on our TV stations. Our local TV stations have their work plans. They're hoping to show more of the games. Now on getting RTHK to do more on sports programs and promoting sports. RTHK is showing many sports events. Tomorrow, the football match will be there for people to watch on RTHK. Sorry, I want to make a declaration. I'm the Deputy President of the SF&OC, Ms. Jovi Chen. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the Bureau for their work in preparing for the Games. Back in 2008, there was the Beijing Olympics. Students took part in the Games as volunteers. Students wanted to take part in major sports events in our country. So For the 15th National Games, we are getting more people involved. The games will start in November. The summer holidays will be a great time for preparations and publicity. I just heard about some community and school promotion events, but we can do more. Before the games start, we have other sports events. Can we also promote the national games to tourists? That way we can get tourists to visit Hong Kong to watch the sports events that we will host as part of the national games. The national games will be a great time to boost tourism and also spending. There will be franchise products and there will be a launch event. We need not just the products, the retail stores also matter. So I want to find out more about the retail stores near the venues. I know there will be special stamps. Now, I'm a member of the Stamp Advisory Committee. We still have to wait for official announcement on the details, but I would like to learn more about these products and stamps so that we can have more publicity beforehand and create this atmosphere. Secretary, I thank Ms. Chen for her good ideas. So we will have the 100-day countdown. On the Sport for All Day, this year the theme will also be the National Games. On the Sport for All Day, we will encourage not just sport, but we will encourage people to follow closely the National Games. Now, many in the local media scene told me they would like to broadcast the games and tell people more about the games before they start. They want to tell people about the specific events and also the athletes. Now, since we will be co-hosting the games with Guangdong and Macau SAR, people are also wondering if we can tell people about multi-destination tourism. Now, some media outlets are preparing for such programs. The member also mentioned promoting the games to tourists. We are doing that and we will double down on that. The mascot, Xiangtiang and Le Rongrong, will feature in many photo-taking spots at the Kai Tak Sports Park and also at the Hong Kong Stadium during the match between Manchester United and the Hong Kong team, and also at the Cultural Center in Tsim Sha Tsui East. At the team promenade, there's also a countdown clock. Now, at the Chinese New Year parade, the two mascots also featured. As Mr. Yuan Tek Kern just said, in late June, we will launch those franchised products. And those products will be available for sale starting from July. So with these interesting products, we would like to attract greater attention to the national games from not just locals but also tourists. Dr. Johnny Ng. I thank the Bureau for the work and also I commend the effort the Bureau put in. And I can see the preparations are proceeding well. Now I have some questions about the publicity. Now we're near the end of phase 2 and phase 3 is coming up. Many events are lining up and then there will be 2 elections, one in September, another in December. Now, one day after our polling day for the Legislative Council general election, the NGDSO will start, NGDSO being the Games for Persons with Disabilities and National Special Olympic Games. I wonder what we can do about the publicity given the elections and the games. I do note the games are different from the elections. Now, there will be overseas visitors here. Our country does particularly well in certain sports events. How can we have targeted publicity to get more overseas visitors to come here? How do we get them to stay here for a few more days and spend money here? we have a role as the 8 centers, one of them being International INT Center. INT are close to my heart. So for the events we will be hosting as part of the national games, we will be using innovative technology so that we can tell the visitors coming here about our role.
Thank you, Mr. Ng, for your questions on publicity. Well, the spending on that when compared to the election to be held later this year, I've already answered a question in this council. Would be using the best synergy effect. In other words, the two mega events will be publicized together. That is the national games as well as the electrical election this year. So the medium to be used would be that it will be very extensive. It's going to be all over the place, so that we can also invite the winning athletes or those who have won medals to help with the publicity. But then that would also have to be in line with the strategy of the preparatory committee. That is, athletes should focus on the competition first, and then afterwards they can also help with the publicity of the electrical election in order to achieve a synergy effect. We understand that shortly after the national games, we will start with the electrical election publicity, so we will have to make use of that time window. So that we have already completed the NG, and yet we have still some time to go before the electrical election. So the relevant bureau and the Constitution and Mainland Affairs Bureau would also be taking advantage of that time window to do more publicity. And indeed, for national games, that would also be a very important event in terms of the mega events to be held in Hong Kong, and therefore we have already made preparation for more tourists to come, and we have already been publicizing the hosting of the national games, and the ticketing arrangements will also be announced as soon as these 3 places have reached the agreement, and the tourism sector can also sell their products. With regard to the use of innovative products and so on, I will ask Mr. Yeung to give you the details. Yes, in recent years, we have had a series of mega sports events. For example, the Asian Games in Hangzhou and also the Asian Winter Games in Harbin. And they've also used a lot of high-end technology to do this. And on this occasion, we will be working with Guangdong to co-host some of the events. And therefore, whatever can be used in terms of these events will be used. And we've been making plans to work with Guangdong and Macau, so that we can have an IT system in place, so that for raw information about the games and also the verification and so on, is about the management of the entire event and arrangements. We hope to work with our mainland counterparts in order to come up with the best possible system. And also for the cross-boundary events, well, that's a very clear example. For example, for the road cycling, we will also have to make sure that out of the 230 kilometers of the racetracks, on 6 occasions, they will have to pass through border checkpoints, and then we will be using facial recognition systems so that all the athletes and also their support staff will be able to cross the boundary seamlessly without having to do the border clearance physically. So a lot of new technology will be used to support our events. Thank you. Next, Ms. Chen Yit-ming. Thank you, Chairman. 2 concerns. First, for the cross-boundary events, and also during the events, what is going to be done by the cross-boundary checkpoints to tie in with the events. We have accumulated a lot of experience, including the liaison mechanism by the 3 governments, and also in terms of the coordination mechanism. We have also put in place a number of arrangements. In fact, you have the 30 kilometers of the boundary, and also you also have the physical corridor that you would need to look into. That is, you should organize more cross-boundary sports events And also in the course of the national games, many visitors will be coming to Hong Kong to watch the events. And all along, our border checkpoints have only got one single function. But then, can you make use of our border checkpoints to provide convenience and do more publicity for visitors? You can also provide them with guidance as to how they can take part in such events, and also understand that the same ticketing system will be adopted for the 3 places. Well, in the past, for individual popular events, tickets would be well sought after, and therefore have the 3 governments discussed how you can deal with speculation and also these speculation activities online. Yes, we have discussed this, and we are also very concerned about this. And when the ticketing arrangements are announced, we would also be tackling the problem of oversupply, speculation, scalping, and so on. And the 3 governments would also have to agree on the arrangements, and that would also have to be enforceable. So rest assured that we will discuss this. As to what the cross-boundary checkpoints can do, well, we have taken note of your concerns. We would also be making reference to the experience that we collected so far in organizing this. So we would also be conveying this to the Security Bureau to make sure that these can be done. Well, what is to be sure is that for the 15th NG and also for the NGD, if it's successfully held, then if everything goes smoothly, then in future, in the GBA, when we host more mega sports events, the situation will be easier. So a lot more such events can be held. There would be ample opportunities ahead. So we would attach a lot of importance to this, because the experience accumulated so far would also enable the 3 places to achieve this synergy effect, so that the GBA will be able to co-host many more events. And that would also be a very good foundation that will be laid. Any further follow-up? No. Next, Mr. Vincent Cheng. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'd like to congratulate the NG, and I wish it a huge success. Well, I think it's still premature to say this, but then in organizing many events in the past, we hope that there can be extension activities. For example, we have a Hong Kong team taking part in a game, and some 40,000 tickets have been sold. I hope that the experience accumulated this time can also bring us towards more further collaboration in the future. We hope that we can take part in more national games in the future. And a lot of publicity has been done, and these are good things. Colleagues have already asked this, and I understand that you are still sorting out the details for ticketing, but then the public would like to know this as soon as possible. So it's not just about coming to Hong Kong to view such events. There are Hong Kongers who would also like to go to Canton or Guangzhou to watch these events. So it's like the Paris Olympics. So when you sell the tickets, you can also sell hotel packages and so on. I hope that more packages can be put in place so that people can also have different experience when they come to Hong Kong. And also on this occasion, there are venues that are not that popular in the past. For example, the Chiang Kwan O cycling activity or the velodrome. I think in the past when I went there, the experience was not that desirable. For example, from the 13th to the 17th of November, I'm sure some visitors would also be booking hotels nearby in Chiang Kwan O, and they would also hope that they can also go to the shopping centers nearby to do some shopping. I hope that will also enhance their experience. I hope that more can be done about it. Secretary. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chang. Indeed, for the event economy, that's also very important. Other than having the chief executive naming the Kai-Tak Sports Park as it is, we hope that Kai-Tak Sports Park can also become the main event venue for this games. And once we have laid that foundation, we will also hope that we can organize more sports events there. So that's the main. So Kai-Tak Sports Park would also be the main stadium for this event. And next month we're going to have the Hong Kong team playing in a major competition, and that's very encouraging. And I think that is also an injection of confidence. We hope that that would also show our support for the athletes. Indeed, if you look at the policy of the Bureau for elite athletes, we will provide a lot of support. It's not just about the event support. We have greater flexibility when they take part in sports events. And also for athletes and also their teams, we have also beefed up our support for them. These are the measures that we have adopted in showing our support for the athlete, so that they can rest assured that they can just dedicate their efforts in the games, and then they would get better results for Hong Kong. And on top of that, for the sports venues, for example, for the 8 venues to be used for the national games, they are all very close to public transport. For example, they are very close to the MTR station. Even for the Hong Kong Velodrome, it's also very close to the MTR station in Hang Hau. And then for the hotels along the rail tracks, they would also have an edge over the other hotels. Once the ticketing arrangements are out, we have already been in contact with the tourism sector, and they also earnestly hope that something can be done about it, so that they can also introduce hotel packages and so on to tie in with the events. And then for major venues, the traffic and transport arrangements would also be carefully planned. Thank you. It's about time for us to end the meeting, and 2 more members, including myself, have yet to ask questions, and therefore I suggest that we should extend the meeting by 10 minutes today. If everything is okay, I will not be accepting other members' requests to speak. So 2 more members, Benson Look and myself. Benson Look first. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'm sure the National Games is one of the major mega event for our country, and for Hong Kong is also the mega of mega events, and therefore the entire community will have to be involved so that everybody will be thrilled about this, and that would also be good for us in promoting our economy as well as tourism. I'd like to have 3 points to make. First, in terms of ticketing, I understand that for ticketing you will have to work with the other places in introducing a coordinated ticketing platform. I understand that the sector has been looking forward to this because there is a lot of potential for their business. So even if they don't have the tickets with them, they would at least like to know how many will be made available to them, so that they can also budget for that. I understand that you've been working on this. So once again, I hope that as soon as you finalize the arrangements, you should talk to the sector as soon as possible. Secondly, as some colleagues have said, volunteers have been responding very enthusiastically. We do look forward to the hosting of the national games here, and therefore I wonder if the Bureau might agree to this. That is, can we set aside some tickets for certain events to our youngsters on NSAs or even primary and secondary schools, and even the Strive and Rise program. I understand that there are also official merchandise and also franchise products and so on. Xi Yang Yang and Le Rong Rong, these are the mascots that we are familiar with. But then if there can be a crossover with Hong Kong, I think we can also introduce some products with local characteristics, and that would also be very popular. And I'm sure the Bureau directors at Facebook can also have more heroines. So can we work together? Thank you.
Secretary, I can see ticketing is top of mind for some members. We have been in touch with the Guangdong authorities. We hold meetings. Every day we get in touch. We note this comment from members and we will pass on the message. We can assure members that once we can announce the ticketing arrangements, and I've made this pledge with the tourism sector, I will let them know as soon as I can. So that the tourism sector can come up with package deals. Now, on volunteers, we have 2,000 slots for young volunteers. We also encourage young people from youth groups, schools, and Strive and Rise to watch those games in person. They will be able to watch the matches involving our national team, teams from different provinces and cities. Now, on franchised product, now the plushies of Le Rodong and Xiangyang will be the mainstay. In late June, we will make an announcement. We have seen some dummies. There will be accessories. There will be more plushies. And there will be some products with Hong Kong characters. Now, on any crossover between Le Renrong Xiangyang and our two giant pandas, now some merchants may get creative and have some kind of crossover. That's possible. Now it's my turn. Our officials and the sector have done a lot in preparation for the national games. I want to thank all those stakeholders. It's no easy task. Now, since 1997, we have co-hosted two major events, one the East Asian Games and another the equestrian event for the Olympics. We achieved great results. We now have new sports venues, and we have also built up considerable experience. So we will be able to do even better than before. A major sports event can provide many benefits. This time we will be hosting some events. In the past, TV stations competed with each other and it was unhealthy. So with the government's intervention, different TV stations could broadcast major sports events. So we would like to see TV stations do a good job in broadcasting the games. We would also like our TV stations to showcase Hong Kong while broadcasting the games. So that's something we hope the TV stations can do. There will be out-of-town visitors in Hong Kong, mostly from the mainland, but also some from overseas. We want to show these visitors that Hong Kong is a welcoming place. For that, we will have to mobilize our tourism sector and also our retail and food and beverage sectors so that we can be this hospitable host. Last week, Mr. Brave Chen raised an oral question, and the secretary mentioned she expected 100,000 visits to the games. Much will depend on ticketing. We have to coordinate with the mainland's organizing committees. This is a precious opportunity. I believe 100,000 visits will only be a fraction of our capacity. So can we talk to the organizing committee on the mainland? If we have seats left, can we allow more people into the venues? say people struggling to afford a ticket or people with disabilities and students, can we also let them in so that they can experience the games together? That way we can boost the level of participation. And we can also justify the matter to the organizing committee and the central government, showing that we want to achieve great results. And we would also like to give our support to our local athletes so that they can achieve ever greater results and bring honor to Hong Kong. So, any response from the Secretary? So, with experience from the past, we hope we can make the upcoming games a success and everyone will be happy with the results. We also want to showcase our vitality to our country and to the rest of the world. That's also a key goal of organizing or co-hosting the upcoming games. Now, I shared this projection of 100,000 visits to the games. Now, we're talking about visitors, inbound visitors, coming here specifically as spectators of the national games. For the upcoming games, there will also be delegations from different provinces and cities, athletes, technical officials, supporting officials, government officials. Those visitors will number tens of thousands. They will also be here as inbound visitors. Since we're talking about games, there will be tickets. We want local residents, young people, people into sports, and people not into sports. We want them to experience the atmosphere of the national games. And we will proceed with care when it comes to ticketing. We will cater for the needs of tourists and inbound visitors. At the same time, we will also give local residents access to the tickets. Chairman, you just mentioned people with disabilities as spectators. We will cater to their needs. We will bear in mind their needs for the national games and also for the upcoming national games for persons with disabilities. We also want PWDs involved. We want them either as spectators or also as athletes competing in the special games. So we're done with all questions and answers. If there are no other questions, I conclude the item here. Fifth item on the agenda, any other business? No other business. I adjourn the meeting here. Thank you.